first off, we want to thank you guys for coming to our open forum. Basically what we have for you guys, this is just to show you guys how you can use the church as a networking tool to further you into your career aspirations. That's why we specifically targeted your group of young adults or adults, because as you may know already or will be experiencing, it gets a little scary once you graduate from college. You know, you're kind of in like this purgatory of what you're supposed to do. Maybe if you're fortunate enough, you already have a job lined up for you out of college. If not, you're lurking around, you have some job, but it's not really what you want to do. So this is why we have this gathered, to help you guys realize that the church is a great networking tool for you, and it's a place you can escape from the real world, come together, see what resources you have, and how to better use those resources for your advantage. So we have two guest speakers for you guys, two very close friends of mine, whom I like to call older brothers, who I look up to, and who have helped me into I guess steer me in the right direction towards my career paths, and I think they have some great information that they can share to you guys. And I've met them through the church, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce your first guest speaker, Aram Babikia.
Thank you, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a cold. My voice didn't get the memo, but I'll try to do my best. So a little bit about how I started my career. I went to Baruch College, which is a CUNY school. Reason why I chose that school, I didn't want to pay any kind of debt. They actually gave me a full scholarship, so I graduated without any college debt. As a result of that, it was a great school, but that type of school I had to work a little bit harder than most in order to get to where I am. So the reason why I chose Wall Street all actually started with my father. So my father was actually, he used to go downstairs in the basement and he would trade on his own account, trading options and all other types of contracts like that. So I always asked him, you know, what are you doing with, what are you doing on the computer over there? So he would tell me a little bit, oh, I'm trading this, I'm doing that, and I got very interested. There were all the charts that I would look at, had a lot of colors. I thought, you know, this is something that I find very interesting. He wanted me to become a lawyer, but that didn't happen so much because I found the market to be a lot more interesting. Now, I started my career out in Goldman Sachs. This is where I got my internship. I got that internship as a result of speaking to a lot of people within my church, understanding how I should go about going into this type of field. But I went through my career office within the college itself, and I was able to get that scholarship as a result of that. I also did the AGBU internship program in the city as well that gave me work experience. Now, if you do want to get into Wall Street or any type of other industry, there's these books that are available. If you go on Amazon, this is called a Vault book. They have Vault Guide to Investment Banking, Vault Guide to Law, Vault Guide to being a medical professional. I highly recommend getting this book. It's a very good resource. This is one of the things that I used in order for me to enable myself to get that job. So now I work at Direction Funds. I started out at Direction Funds as a trader, and I moved my way into sales. I like sales because it's a lot more interactive with people. You get to travel a lot. You get to see what's out there. But most of all, you actually get to touch your end user, in meaning that I have an actual client, and I am the one that is the one that's influencing their decisions. As a direct result, I am almost my own company in that it's my business, my clients, and that's who I look after. This is just a little bit about the firm that I currently work for. I'm going to give you a very high-level overview of what I do. So, how many of you are familiar with the stock market, just in general? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear stock market? Dow Jones, S&P 500, all these sound familiar a little bit? What these are is they're a collection of U.S. companies that are publicly traded. Those U.S. companies are essentially a gauge of how America as an institution is doing. So when the market is going up, you would think that America, the GDP, is doing well as a nation. So that's why the market is so important. So what we do is we package these companies into what's called a mutual fund or an ETF. You, as a retail investor, can go on Fidelity, E-Trade, or these other types of online accounts and trade these products. This is how you gain access to US companies, is by using these types of products. You could either directly buy the company or you could buy a sector. So if you want to invest in all of technology, there's an ETF out there that enables you to do that. So my company designs and creates these ETFs so the end user can use that. Now, the market is one of the greatest wealth generation devices that we have here. So a high net worth individual is going to want to put his money into the stock market so he can create more wealth. Creating more wealth is really what it's all about for them and the financial advisor, but it's also about mitigating risk. So in 2008, what happened to the stock market? Should be fresh in everyone's mind. It crashed. As a result of that, people lost a lot of money. As a financial advisor, you're tasked to keep that money. That's what you're paid to do. So we give you the tools that are able to do that, but not everyone is going to know about these tools. So me as a salesperson, that's my job, is to educate them on the tools that we offer. This is just a little bit of numbers of how large this industry really is. It's in the trillions. The ETF industry, where I play in, is 2.2 trillion. The financial advisors that are my end users, they manage about $5 trillion. That's a lot of money. Like I said, the founders of Google, Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg, they all need financial advisors, and those are my clients. They're financial advisors. So now I just want to get into, spoke enough about the industry. These are the little things that I've learned that have made me successful so far. And hopefully you can take this away as well. So seeking a support system, seeking a mentor. Now, we're in a church right now. This should be one of your greatest resources for meeting people. You are all Armenians, young Armenians. Now, a lot of people confuse networking and seeking support as a way to get a job. The way you want to network is you want to showcase your talents. Me as an Armenian, I'm not obligated to give you a job. But if you come to me, you talk to me, little by little, months go by, and we've had several conversations. Now, in my head, you've made an impression. I know who you are. I know that you're looking for a specific type of job or something like that. And if something opens up, I say, hey, I met this kid 6 months ago at the church. He was a really smart guy. Why don't I reach out to him, see if there's an opening? The whole purpose of networking is for you to get your name out there. It's not a way for you to get a job. It's just for you to showcase who you are. Providing value at all times. This is when you want to get hired and stay hired. What I mean by this is you just can't follow the norm. You have to look and see what people need and try to provide value. For instance, when I started my career at Goldman Sachs, we were doing things very manually. So I went out there, learned certain things in Excel, how to create what's called a macro, and automate something. So it made someone's job even easier. And as a result, people were very appreciative. When you make someone else's, especially your boss's job, easier, that's a very good thing. Be polite and be humble in speaking up. These two go hand in hand. You want to speak up. What I mean by this is you shouldn't just sit there with your head down and just nod and say yes. If you really feel that there's something where you can add value, you need to let people know and speak up. You shouldn't be scared. If you want to succeed in any type of environment, you have to take a little bit of risk. Being polite, being humble, this speaks for itself. You'd be very surprised at how much a simple thank you note goes. When I go to a client, I thank him for their time. I thank him for meeting with me. If he does business, I thank him as well. Each time that goes a long way. Most people don't do that, and as a result, people get a different impression about you. So paving the road for your future. When I went to Goldman Sachs, that wasn't my dream job. I always wanted to be a trader. I started out in what's called the operations area, where I was doing valuations and analytics for complex products, but that's not what I wanted to do. In my head, I always had that I wanted to be a trader. So therefore, I envisioned the road that I would take in order for me to get there. And I did everything in my power to get there. Reading books, speaking to different people, networking, doing whatever I needed to do to get to the level that I wanted to be at. Thinking outside the box. Now, I know this is cliche, but at the same time, you cannot just follow what everyone else is doing. You have to think a little bit, see what is that people need, and try to address it. But if it's something that most people have already thought of, you're not adding any value. You're only adding value if you are thinking outside the box, but it's something that's different that someone hasn't really thought about before. And finally, interview your interviewer. I can't express how important it is to work for the right person. Your boss will make your career. If you have a very bad boss, I can tell you, you do not want to wake up and go to work. You need to know that this is the right company that you're starting out with and the right person that you're working for. Now, what do you do once you get hired? And these are 10 things that I've thought of that really can make you a leader. Becoming a leader is probably the single most important thing that you can do in your career to excel it to higher levels. So, a strong work ethic and commitment. You know, my mom is over here. I didn't really want to say this story, but I think it's very important. So, when I was an intern, you're working in the city, you're making a ton of money. What do you want to do? You want to go party, right? You want to go out, have a good time. You need to be able to understand that that is a very important aspect of the job, in that you are building camaraderie with your coworkers, but you have to be able to do it right, and you have to be responsible. I went out too late. I ended up being late to work as a result of that the next day. But I realized that this is something that I need to make up as a result. First, I brought a bunch of donuts in. No one says no to donuts, so therefore, I brought a smile to their faces. Then my boss called me in and he goes, "You know you're a little late, right?" I said, "You know what? I'm going to make it up to you tenfold. Give me that project that you've been wanting to give someone else. I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to do it very well, and I'm going to finish it a week in advance." He said, "Okay, fine." And that's what I did. Work ethic is very, very important, and that's what enables you to outperform others. People will make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. You should not be afraid to make mistakes. But what you should do is try to make up for that mistake by working harder than anyone else. Being interpersonal. A good sense of humor goes very far in the workplace. You want to be able to, I'm not saying be a clown, but people will come to you and they'll make fun of your glasses, they'll make fun of your tie. Take it in stride, say hello, do whatever you need to do, and in turn maybe you can say something back, but you have to have a good sense of humor. You cannot take everything personally. You need a thick skin. A sense of humor enables you to actually deal with that better. Ability to network. I just spoke about that. Networking is an art and a skill. It's not a science. But what you need to do is you need to be able to speak to the most important people at the company, but not in a way that you're asking them for something. You just want to showcase yourself. Make them know who you are, and in turn, they'll remember you for something else down the road. Communication skills. This is extremely important. Everything is done via email. You need to have a good understanding of this language, but how to communicate things very concise and in a manner that's effective and efficient. The same goes for your speaking skills. If you are in a boardroom and all of a sudden your boss asks you, "Sean, what do you think of this project?" You need to be able to be clear and concise and try to do it in 3 minutes or less. Anything more than that, people are going to start to lose interest. Finally, be competitive. You want to be competitive, but not in a way that is hurtful. Being competitive just means you saw Jack in your office doing something, you want to do it better. You don't want to be competitive and sabotage him. The way you want to be competitive is you want to do a better job than him on the next project. Honesty and integrity, that goes into being competitive. At all times, if you own up to your mistakes, people will respect you as a result of that. But at the same time, if you say you're going to do something and you're going to do it in 2 weeks, you better get it done in 2 weeks. That's what integrity is. Strong analytical skills. This goes into time and project management as well, and working well under pressure. All three of these are essentially kind of all into one. Risk and return simply means you need to always constantly weigh the risk of doing something and what kind of return you will get. For instance, if you're tasked with doing a bunch of mailings and you're labeling, that's a very tedious and long drawn out job. For instance, that's going to take you 4 hours. Now, you have a project that's due that there's $1 million on the line. That is far more important than doing this mailing. Even though your boss asked you to do this mailing first, you need to prioritize and know that the risk and return for that other project is far greater than what you're doing right now, even though he told you to do this certain project. You want to prioritize that one as well. And the last but not least, be genuine. People see through if you're trying to fake who you are not. You want to be able to just be yourself, and people will like you a lot more for that. Going to be a complete summary of what we just spoke about. If you want to be successful at anything you do, whether it's owning your own business or working at a Fortune 500 company, you need to know how to fill the want with the need. That is one of the single most important things, that you can add value to your job and have a better path that you pave for a successful career. Incorporate your own personal style. You want to be genuine. And finally, at all times, I am a salesman for a living, but that doesn't mean that you are not a salesman. John is actually a lawyer. He'll tell you how much sales goes into being a lawyer. You're always, always selling yourself as a person. You are showcasing your skills, your talents, your personality. People see that at all times. You're going to be an accountant. You're going to do accounting probably for 5 years. After that, you're a salesman. When you're a lawyer, also 5 years, then you're a salesman. Sales as a skill is one of the single most important things that you can have. And you can practice that every day at the church by simply talking to people, asking them questions, understanding about what they do for a living, and see how you can help them out or how they can help you out. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that you guys have.
Thank you very much, Aram. That was very informative. Well, if anyone doesn't know me, my name is John McGarrian. I'm a lifelong parishioner of St. Sarkis Church. I'm also a practicing attorney. I practice commercial litigation amongst other types of litigation with Peter Berzon and Associates in Jericho. Anyone who has questions about the path to becoming an attorney, just feel free to wait until the end, and then we could go over that information as well. Today, what I'm going to discuss is 5 different topics that I feel are important in order to pave your way to a successful future. The first topic that I'm going to discuss is the Armenian Church and embracing your Armenian identity. As you all probably know, the Armenian Church has been around since 301 AD. That's a pretty long time. The Armenians have been able to keep their language, their culture, and keep the identity going for all this time. So the question is, how have our Armenian ancestors done it for 1700 years, and how shall we continue to do it to be successful as them? And a lot of it comes from helping each other, from being part of the church. The church is really what has kept us Armenians together through the genocides and through the difficult times that we've had. So the church is the #1 resource that all of you should turn to when trying to find a way in order to move forward in life. Being a part of the Armenian Church will definitely help guide you in the right direction, but the one thing that all of you have to realize is that just by going to church or just being a part of this group that we are today, it's not enough. What all you have to do is you have to first use your own free will to choose to take certain steps in order to work hard in life. If you see someone who's reached a goal or has reached a plateau that you feel is somewhere that you want to go, you have to have it upon yourself to not be afraid to approach that person, to ask questions, to dig deep in order to find out how that person got to where they actually got to, and what steps they had to take, and how you're going to be able to do it. So through the church, I'll go into the details, I found many different individuals who have helped me, and I'm sure myself and Adam and many other individuals are willing to help. So it's a resource that you all should look into. Your Armenian identity is also very important because it's something that schools, jobs, they look at to see, they want to have a unique individual when they accept you into a school, when they accept you into a position. A lot of times through the admissions processes of schools, I would always stress my Armenian identity, the fact that I'm such a close family person with my brothers and my parents and my family, and a lot of times when someone sees within you that, wow, this person has a strong family background and this person is they really understand their own culture and their own background, especially here in America, people respect that. They look at us as people who understand where they're coming from and where they want to go. So that's something that will set you apart and set you aside from everyone else in the pack and everyone else when they're trying to get a job or they're trying to get a position. Always trust your Armenian identity and always try to be a part of as many Armenian communities, churches, organizations as possible. Because the more you know, the more people you know, the more easier it will be to network and to find the right person that's going to help you lead to that next path. The next point I'm going to discuss is networking as the key to success in terms of trying to sustain long-term relationships. I'm going to go through a few examples of how I've networked in the Armenian church and how that's given me a competitive advantage in my life and helped me further my career and my aspirations. Before I even knew it, I was networking in the church. The way I was networking was by serving on the altar. Since '97, when I was about 15, 16 years old, that's when I became an acolyte and later a subdeacon. And through those years, I made many friends and really created good relationships where, without knowing it, it was almost a way of networking with all these individuals and people. Haysup Sirpazan Amushavan, who used to be a Haysup back then, was one of the individuals who really inspired me in order to spiritually join the church. And the way it happened was my cousin Betty, who also serves on the altar, every Saturday night when we were like 15 or 16, we used to go to Oasis Cafe on Northern Boulevard, and that was like our thing to do because that's what the cool teenagers did back then. So we would hang out on Saturday night, and on Sunday morning, everyone would sleep over Betty's house on Saturday night, and it would be me, him, and a few other friends. And Sunday morning, Haysup Sirpazan now would pull up in his Honda Civic, I think, or one of those Hondas, and all the guys would fill up, and we'd be at church by 9:45, and getting the candles ready. And it was kind of part of our group as friends to do that, because we would have fun at night, and then we would still be together the next day, enjoying ourselves on the altar, and then going out and having lunch. So, from my experience, although that was something that maybe I got involved with without knowing, that was my first real networking that I did in the church. And also my brothers and my mother are also involved in the church, serving on the altar and the organ. So for me, the church was always a second home. And I encourage all of you to view the church as your second home, because the one group of people you could always rely on in life are your family members at home. So you have to look at the church as all your family members, rely on everyone that you see, ask questions, and try to help or receive help to move forward in your life. And from my experience, it has been pretty helpful. Another lifelong friend that I made on the church was our own Ded Nadek. Before Ded Haid was a priest, he was a visiting deacon from Lebanon, and that's during those years where I was still, younger and serving on the altar, and we became friends. And years later, when he came back and was our priest, another way the church really helped pave my life was that through Ded Haid, I ended up meeting my wife, who is his wife's younger sister. So it opened up that door for me, where now, I'm happy and have a beautiful marriage. And again, it's based on networking that happened in the church. It's based on my relationship with the church. Now, That's not to say everyone's life's going to end up the exact same way, but hey, you always have to look in the right places in order to find happiness, and the church is definitely somewhere that you can find happiness through networking. I also had the opportunity to meet my younger brother Shant on the altar, and as Shant was maybe, I don't know, 10, 11 when you started going to the altar, around that time?
13.
13. At that time, you know, having him around on the altar was like we embraced him as our younger brother, and even till today, I see how Shant is moving forward. He's so successful. He's in law school, and he's taking all these huge strides, and it makes me proud because through all those years, sometimes we would talk about on the altar. You know, I was in college going to law school. He would ask me questions, and we would talk about it, and I would tell him about my experience. And now seeing he's in the position I was, it's just something great. It's great to see my, younger church brother reaching the successful path that I know he would take and that he wanted to take. So it's another great example of networking within the church. Recently, under Dernotic supervision, there's also been the St. Sarkis Youth Organization, I believe it is, and that is also a very good networking path that you can take. And when I was a kid, it was called the SSTM. It didn't really last for too long, the St. Sarkis Teen Mission, but for a few years here, we had some teens together doing the same thing, and it was like another place for everyone to hang out with, where your parents were okay because you're going to church and you're hanging out with other Armenian, good Armenian kids. And that was another place where I networked, and I was able to make a lot of different friends. Interesting enough, one of the places where I found the most resistance was from St. Sarkis Saturday School. St. Sarkis Saturday School, although when I was going, didn't help me network to reach a goal because I was so young, I ended up meeting two parishioners, Tamar Harutumian and her sister Nanor, and they're family friends, but they also were students that went to Saturday school with me. Later on, when I was in the process of graduating college and going to law school, Tamar, who was an attorney as well, was nice enough to meet me on various occasions, give me guidance, advice, tips on how to apply to law school, and I'm ever thankful to her and to everyone else that helped me back then, because today I am where I am because of the help of all these individuals. She was also nice enough to write me a recommendation to law school, so don't be scared to ask. You have a lot of people here that are willing to help. If you ask, we're all willing to try to take time out of our schedules and our lives to make sure you guys are going to go forward in life as well, and you're going to reach your potentials. I can't forget Holy Martyrs, because Holy Martyrs is also a very big part of my history and development. Holy Martyrs is actually where Adam and I met. We both went to Holy Martyrs together a couple of years apart, but another great... The day school, yeah. We went to Armenian Everyday School from nursery to 6th grade, and the friends that I made, the relationships that I still have from Holy Martyrs are another reason why I've reached where I've reached, because you're able to network and you're able to really reap the benefits of the long-term friends that you make. There's also certain groups like ACYOA, AYF, the Datev Institute, all these different Armenian groups. They're all extracurricular groups which you can put on your resumes, and you asked the question about how to set yourself apart. When you show that you are not only getting good grades and you're doing well on standardized tests, but also that you're part of all these different cultural groups and organizations, it really shows the person, either the interviewer for school or for a job, that whatever you do, you put 100% of your heart into it, and you really care about your community. And that usually is something that could set you apart just from someone who's smart and they're dressed nice and they're speaking very well. The fact is that people like to relate to you and to see that you have other characteristics that really show your character. Lastly, in terms of networking, of course, all of you use all these social networking sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all these other different websites. I feel like it's a good way of marketing. It's a good way of letting people know what you're doing. You might change your job. You might do this. You might see someone that you went to school with from high school that now, has gotten a job as an attorney, has gotten into med school, and you can, reach out to them and try to ask some questions. But the biggest thing I want to note from this is there's more negative impacts that can come from social networking. So as young adults, we can all publish comments online, and it could come back to haunt us later on in the future. I could give you a few examples. One example is, let's say if a young man writes something that's derogatory to females. Some of these rap songs out there will have these kind of phrases in there, and sometimes you'll copy and paste it and post it on Facebook. Let's say one day, if God forbid there's an accusation of sexual assault or rape that's brought upon someone, those published comments on Facebook or social networking websites can be used against you in front of a jury to show your state of mind, to show the kind of individual and the character that you have. You may not even believe in the comments you make or in the jokes that you write, but all these comments can come back to bite you. And when you want to become successful and you want to reach for the highest level that you want to reach, you want to just make sure you're careful. Because by being careful, you're gonna make sure that when you work hard, something like this from your past is not going to come about to then be a detriment to you. So I would just say, have your fun. Social networking is very good. Just be careful and think about your future every time you write something or you interact, where everyone else in the public forum can read as well. The next point I would like to make is that everyone should set their goals early in life. You definitely have to shoot for the stars and land on the moon. It's a very cliche comment to say that, but it's definitely a true comment. The more successful you want to become, the more successful you will become. And that's because everyone is capable of being a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, a financial analyst, a broker, whatever it is that you want to do. As long as you want to do it in your heart and you work hard, you will accomplish it. So set your goals early in life. And just briefly, I want to go over my experience and how I decided to become an attorney. When I was in high school, I was a sophomore. I was 15 years old, and I went to Great Neck South High School. In order to, when I was going to turn 16 and get my permit, I don't know how it is now, but back then, if you had a job, then you could get a junior license. So the first thing that I did was I went to the school and I said, what jobs were available around the area? Yes, it was a childish reason to want to get a job, but it actually got me to the path that I wanted to get to. So there was 2 different openings in Great Neck. One was a law firm and one was for an accounting firm. I chose the law firm, and also I was always told I talked too much when I was a kid anyway, so I thought that I could use it to my advantage and just go to the law firm. And as a 15-year-old, I entered a law firm. It was a real estate trust and estate kind of firm. The older man who ended up hiring me, his name was Mr. Bernard Iber. He was 85 or 86 at the time, and his wife was a retired judge. So they were very well connected, very successful husband and wife, and they had a pretty nice firm. So I entered the firm, and from there, he would take me to court. He would take me to whenever he had clients and they were going to come in for wills, he would have me in the room when they were signing just to see exactly how everything gets done when he's explaining to them, what's going to happen and how the money's going to get divided. So at a very young age, I was able to really experience and see a lot of interesting things in the field of law. That really inspired me because then when I went to Fordham University and I got my business degree, I did, there's no way to go into a college and study law unless you want to do like pre-law. They don't even have pre-law. I mean, they basically say take English or take some kind of a history course. My advice is do whatever you want in college because as long as you have a good grade, you can get into law school no matter what. It doesn't really have any relationship with who they take into law school. But I went to Fordham, and there I made a few friends who were a couple years older than me, and they were going to law school as well. So they helped answer a lot of my questions in terms of what do I fill out? When do I take the LSAT? When do I do this? When do I do that? So it's very important to find someone who's been through that process. Someone like me, I went through it maybe, I guess 10 years ago or 9 years ago, and I still have a recollection. But there's some people that have gone through it just a few years ago. So approach as many people, ask questions. It really helps. It helped me. It helped me get through the process of getting straight into law school and not having to take any time off in between. Then then you have your applications, and you have to write the essays, and you have to do all these other things in order to get into law school. And the connections that you make where people have done it will really help you get down that path. So after I graduated law school, I had an offer from the White Plains ADA's office, and my father had actually asked me to join his business because he was expanding his global operations. So I always would put my family first, so I put my family first, and I joined my father for about 2 years where he expanded to Switzerland, Italy, and Armenia, and I really helped him do a lot of the licensing agreements and take care of a lot of the contractual part of what he had to do in order to expand in those countries. once everything was kind of set up and running, with the blessing of my family, I went back into the path that I had chosen. So I went back to a firm called Cantor Law Firm in White Plains. There I practiced mostly commercial litigation, insurance defense. We would do declaratory judgment actions, all kinds of real estate closings, general litigation, antitrust litigation. A lot of fun, got a lot of good experience. Then 1 year ago actually, I decided I want to come back to Long Island and be closer to my family. So I got a new job offer out in Jericho at a firm where we do most of the same types of stuff, commercial litigation. One different thing that I do here is healthcare litigation, and we represent a lot of doctors and medical companies and providers. So that's also a nice, interesting type of law if anyone's interested. And so basically, that's where I am right now in my life, and that's the path that I took. And in order to get to that path, there was many people who had to kind of guide me in the right direction. You don't just figure out how to get to that path. You even have friends from college or law school that have taken a career in a different type of law, or as doctors or as accountants or whatever it may be. And I find myself getting phone calls or calling some of my friends where we will trade skill sets or experience. And if one of my friends is a physical therapist and I have a case that's about a physical therapist, then if I need some technical information, I don't have to hire an expert right there and ask questions and have the firm pay extra money. I could just call my friend, ask him how he does it, and figure out basically what's going on in this case and what's right or wrong. So the more people you know, the easier it is just to further, even your knowledge base. So that's another reason why you should really tap into other people's experiences. If anyone here is even, has any thoughts about potentially going to law school or would like to become an attorney, anyone can, come approach me. I'm more than willing to give my number and my email address, more than willing to help out in any way possible, so definitely don't be shy. Next, I'm going to just make a point about happiness as the key to success. Adam actually spoke about this as well, that you have to really love what you do in order to succeed. You have to work hard at what you do. But the big thing is, a lot of people choose a certain profession. A lot of people choose to become, a doctor, for instance, because of the name that's associated with it. Oh, I'm a doctor, or my son or daughter is a doctor. That's really not a reason why you should go into any profession. Because people say that, oh, you're going to get paid a lot of money, this person's powerful, this person's rich. Those aren't reasons why to choose a profession. At the end of the day, you spend 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week doing what you do in work, working within your profession. If you're not happy with what you do, then your life as a whole is not going to be happy. You're going to be more depressed. You're not going to enjoy even the happy moments when you're home with your family on the weekends, because you're going to be worrying about work, you're going to be worrying about what you have to do. So make sure whatever it is that you choose to do, that you in your hearts actually enjoy it, that you love it, or at least you really like it. Because at that point, that's going to feed into your success rate. You're going to become more successful by being happy with what you do. It doesn't matter if you decide to be the best baker in the world. It doesn't matter if you decide to be the best jeweler. Just be the best at what you do. Love what you do, and you'll be successful. You'll make enough money to keep your family happy and to keep yourself happy. But your main drive should be what keeps you happy in your heart. And just to add to that, a lot of family members may want to push you in certain directions. Don't feel that you have to do something because a family member is pushing you in a certain direction. Because no matter what you do, as long as you're happy and successful, your family's going to love you and they're going to accept you and they're going to know that you're happy. So do what's right for you. Allow your family to guide you in the right direction, but don't let them make the choices, because at the end of the day, you're going to live the life, you're going to work, you're going to have to support yourself. So you have to make sure that you can survive your whole life being happy and healthy within the profession that you chose. And lastly, I just would like to say that don't be shy to ask for help. We are already willing and able to help. Both myself and Adam now are here. If it's on another day that you think that maybe you have a question, you could reach out to Nadek, to Sean, to anyone and get in contact with us. It's important that you utilize the skill sets and the experiences of your fellow parishioners, friends, community members, because that's what's going to help you kind of get the right information and details that are going to help expedite the process to success. And you're not going to make as many mistakes when you're taking that path. Certain things that I would recommend But there might be big projects that you have, essays, college graduate applications, graduate school admission essays, job search, resume preparation, LSAT advice, GRE advice. These are all different topics that you guys should reach out and ask questions about, because no one knows everything, and no one could even, just read a few pamphlets or go to a Kaplan course and know everything. You have to kind of ask the person who's gone through it, because they will know real life experience things that they can tell you. And with that being said, I really hope and wish that all of you are going to be very successful in your lives, that you're going to utilize the churches, the communities that you're a part of in order to further your interests, and just want to thank you all for attending and giving your time today.
I think both of you guys, you did a fantastic job. Your presentations were very concise. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. Now we heard them, I think it is time for us to hear the participants. But before I ask you to present yourselves, I also would like to say a few words. When I was hearing the presentations, I was able to identify myself with them because I've been a priest for 10 years now, and I think I'm doing okay, right? But on the other hand, I was able to identify myself with you, those who are applying to college or those who are in the process of getting your education. Because continuing my education, I'm trying to get a degree in counseling. And I would like to say a few things about, or from my experience. Right when everything was going okay with me here, I decided to do something extra, something additional. And I applied to St. John's University to get into this program. And it was very difficult for me because, first of all, I had no one, I did not know anybody there. And when I applied, I was like 10 days after the deadline. And for that reason, I missed a whole semester. Now, I'm almost at the end of my path, and I need to do internship. And it was very difficult to find a site for internship. I had to write a resume, try to go to applications here and there, and then I just remembered that one of our Board of Trustee members, Dr. Hagop Gorgisyan, works at Queen's Hospital, and I just told him if he was able to help me. The next day I had an interview on the phone, and the following day I was at the site and I started my internship. So I'm trying to say this to let you know that it doesn't matter who you are. At the end of the day, we all can use a little help. Now at the site, here I do everything well, but at the site, everything was new for me. I had to learn how to write the perfect case notes. I had to go and ask people, help me, guide me. And when you ask, people are willing to help you. Ara made a very wonderful remark about being humble and also getting the wisdom. And it's very interesting that I was reading a quotation today from a person which I like very much. He said, "Lord, grant me wisdom and humility." We all know this, right? But then he adds, "but not in that order." So I guess humility comes first, and then when you have that, wisdom also is gained through humility. Without further going and commiserating with you about my situation, I would like to ask you, without any particular order, to introduce yourselves and tell us where you are. Are you applying to college? Are you in college? What are your career plans? And then once we get to know everybody here, I will have another question and we will conclude this afternoon.